Welcome back to the LEC studio for Rogue taking on Origen. This matchup is between two teams fighting at the top of the LEC, and it could be a preview of what is to come on the road to Worlds. Both of these teams faced off in the spring playoffs, and they've both taken some steps since then. I feel like both of these teams are finding a little bit more groove and a little bit more success. So VandeR and Vedius, I want you to help break this down with me. Let's start from the Rogue perspective. Last week, they did something that they haven't been able to do very often, and it was beat a team
I think that
that
they
was
had
above them in
a
the
really
standings.
important win against Fnatic last week, and it was the fact that they did something a little bit different. They decided to go for more of an early game focused comp, something that was much more reliant on being able to get early advantages and snowball off that win. And I think that what we saw a lot of from Rogue last split was this ability to get early leads, largely through intelligent macro play rather than just dominating their opponents, and then kind of progressively build advantages. Then you'd have a little bit of a blunder, whether it be around Baron, maybe around another dragon,
Right.
and they'd have to bounce back due to some good team fighting or whatever. But now, not only do I think that their overall gameplay has cleaned up, they're also able to snowball much more cleanly than they were able to in the past. And I think that this development of expanding the drafts and being able to execute upon the things that they could try to do last split but not quite consistently get, I think is pretty significant improvement for this Rogue squad.
And I think like some of these individual picks shouldn't come as like a big surprise, right? Like we know that Inspired can play a really solid Olaf. We've seen VandeR play, have great games on the Thresh, but I think they're both sort of finding their stride working together as well, because watching Inspired plus VandeR go and attack points on the map, invade the jungle, look for ganks, these types of plays was something that I wasn't as used to seeing this squad go for in the spring split, and I've been pleasantly surprised with their performance on that as they branch out to play multiple different strategies in this split, because quite frankly, coming into week 3, I was sort of pinning Rogue as the most predictable draft team in the LEC. They're always going to go for scaling. Larssen, Hansama on good scaling options. Finn's probably going to play a tank or an engage option up there as well. But they proved in last week's performance, even against the Mad Lions that they ended up losing, that they have different styles they're willing to dip into. And while they weren't successful against the Mad Lions, I thought seeing, Larssen on a pick like the Echo, Finn debuting the Alawi, these are, hopeful picks that I'd like to see them dip back into in the future, just maybe with a more cohesive overall plan.
I wonder what they're going to do today against Origen and how this is going to play out as well, because let's turn our attention to Origen, sitting technically below Rogue in the standings right now. And Vedius, when we were preparing for this segment and we were talking about it, especially earlier in the week, we came into it going, look, Origen, they've improved, they've gotten better, and they're stepping up. But that doesn't quite paint the full picture.
It's really interesting because when you speak to Origen, and like I've had a lot of conversations to Origen recently, or various Origen players rather than the entity that is Origen, and they're pretty confident that they've made changes, right? And when you kind of look at the eye test, I think that they're a lot more willing to take fights, and I think that we saw that at the end of playoffs, and I think that we've been continuing to see that so far this split. But that hasn't actually resulted in significant improvement for the team. We've been seeing statistically that they're not taking as many early game advantages in terms of goal differences. They're not taking as many early towers. They're not finding as many kills from team fighting. They're actually getting less kills from team fighting than they were before. And their Baron control has actually decreased as well. Now, of course, there is a slightly larger sample size from last split compared to this split, but statistically, Origen has actually gotten worse. Now, I think this kind of brings into question, while Origen are making changes and they're trying to be more proactive and they're trying to be more effective on the map and willing to take those fights that they wouldn't necessarily take before, they haven't quite refined that strategy yet, and they're not able to find an element of consistency. And as a result of that, many teams around them are actually able to pick up these wins. That game versus Mad Lions last week, they could have won, but they lost because they took a bad team fight. And it's something that we're continuing to see from this team, that they need to readjust if they want to move back into that top 3 conversation.
Now, we are nearly at picks and bans. I want to try bring the head-to-head back into the discussion. And Ender, taking a look at some of the stats that we've just seen there from Origen, as well as the knowledge that we've had when we've been looking at the league and we've been talking about why it's so competitive and some of the reasons, how do you think Rogue and Origen are going to match head-to-head? You said you were surprised by their draft last week. Are you hopeful we'll see something different today? And do you think they've got the individual player ability to beat out OG
I think
today?
Rogue definitely have a good shot here. This is a matchup that I think overall is going to be pretty close. I think me and Vedius are actually talking a bit during the break, and we're like, hey, is this a time where Hans Sama can just pull out that Kalista again and go for a little bit more early game focus? Because I actually think, some of the stumbles that Vedius was hinting to there with Origen, how they're not getting big early leads, I think Origen have a near obsession with early game objectives, especially around dragons, and they don't necessarily see the full picture. So like when they, are just going to lose a head-to-head fight based on champions, based on draft, whatnot, they still will sometimes opt into that. So I think a really good option into Origen is to draft a strong bot lane 2v2 and a good early game jungler, and then sort of bait Origen into going into those fights against you, because you can come on top and you can use that gold to sort of push yourself ahead. So I think Rogue, if they have this kind of idea, do stand a very solid chance today.
All right, we're just about to jump into draft. Ender, then Vedius. One word answer, who will win this game? Ender.
Rogue.
I'm going Rogue as well.
Ooh.
Rogue and Rogue. Over to Drakos and Froskurinn.
All right, wow. Rogue and Rogue. What an exciting time to be a Rogue fan. You get so much faith from the casters, or is it just the doubt for Origen? We're going to have to find out, Froskurinn. And I think the draft discussion is one that I want to pick us up on, because it is very interesting. Two teams that historically we've said have similar styles, but have very different players.
What I find so interesting is the shift now, because historically it was Rogue or Valée Origen, that they're just the inferior version, and now it's or Rogue chasing after Origen. The analysts saying that Origen aren't going to win this game. I just gotta stay away from the word Origen.
It's true. It's fine. Look, we're not gonna lie, folks. We were a little slow on the uptake, We didn't have quite as much Red Bull at home as we do in the studio, so we both ingested the caffeine, and hopefully so have Origen and Rogue, as we're now getting into picks and bans for our fourth game of the day. Inevitably, draft is gonna be hugely important. 10-13 feels like it has a lot of changes. Most of the top picks taken down a notch, and have to see what Rogue and Origen want to do in this game.
And I'm curious what Aphelios is going to happen here, because Origen have used Aphelios as kind of the staple of a lot of their compositions. They're really reliant on the Aphelios, the Nautilus. Since the nerfs to Aphelios, you and I were kind of talking about it into the break, does he become as high priority for Origen, or will they pivot to a different ADC? Is this going to be the upset Ezreal show?
And I was surprised, actually, to see his priority drop so much, but of course the nerf to Chakram is a big one. It means that he doesn't shred through Baron like a Cassiopeia would, and he doesn't reliably have that up for a fight around Baron either. Seems significant enough that most teams don't consider him anymore. But the bans are coming in pretty quickly here. Froskurinn, Twisted Fate, Thresh, Ezreal, now as well the Kalista and Varus from the side of Origen. 2 80 carries already. That's a lot of attention paid to Hans Sama.
It almost feels like they're trying to force Origen onto Aphelios. I don't expect him to be a blue 1 first pick. So, especially that Ezreal ban, I really like it coming out from Rogue, and there we go. No one is going to play it.
All right, now we're set up once again for what feels like it could be a Syndra first pick from the side of Rogue. Again, something that we've seen Hans Sama play. Surprised to see this champion go over twice in one day. Finn, don't even play with me, boy. Don't do it. We were here, we cast that game last week. It was not a good look. Despite that smiley boy flexing in front of you, dear audience, no more Alawi. At least for a few weeks, it will be the Syndra locked in.
Okay, from here you snap grab Orianna. If that is a Syndra that goes into the mid lane, Ori's one of the few champions blind pickable, because you don't know if it's going to be Syndra, but it dissuades the Syndra going into the mid lane, because you can use the shield to absorb some of that burst damage.
Yeah,
don't play Nukeduck.
Trade very aggressively, of course, with Phase Rush as well. You can get up in her face, really maximize the value of that passive. Additionally, the bonus MR from the Orianna ball in the early game when you level up E is very good at mitigating that damage. But instant Orianna Ashe. Ashe, a champion that's been very popular in the LPL from what you've been telling me, Froskurinn, and now we finally get to see it here in EU.
And I think with these two kind of answers to a Syndra first pick, you kind of covering both your bases if it's a Syndra bot lane or if it's a Syndra mid lane. She won't be able to immediately burst the Orianna. Now she can immediately burst the Ashe, but Ashe should be able to keep Syndra at a distance because she is a longer range ADC, and she can also punish Syndra for being quite low mobility herself. Obviously, if the arrow finds Syndra, you just instantly pop the champion. It is now also confirmed that Larssen is going to be playing his Azir special, so that's going to be Hansama Sama.
Hansama Syndra in the bottom lane.
Well, I swear, I was injecting caffeine into my veins. I was like...
Are you all right? I believe you. I believe you. The support picks are Tahm, Kench, and Nautilus. We can talk about them in a second, but I think that Azir for Larssen is really important because while the Echo didn't look good the last time we saw him on stage, this man has been immaculate on the control of mages, and I'm ready to see if he can be kind of the hyper carry that this team is going to need in a matchup versus OG.
I'm standing up. I'm gonna start
do some
doing jumping jacks
stretches,
in a second.
deep breaths. If you're at home, you can do this too. You know, we've all been inside a little bit too much these days. Just stand up, stretch while Froskurinn composes herself for her next point.
What I was trying to say is that Hansama has shown the Syndra before, and that's what I really like about how all of our ADCs seem to be diversifying their pools. They're no longer just locked onto playing those traditional ADCs, even though you might not think of them as mage players down there. Now, obviously, you grab the Nautilus not only to deny it away from Destiny and not allow Origen to have two big pieces of hard engage CC, but also because it is really good against low mobility champions like an Ashe, which then prompts Destiny to immediately snap grab the Tahm Kench and say, okay, they've got the hard engage. I now need to keep my little Ashe safe. We have great mobility to play semi-global or global with the Ice Arrow as well as the Abyssal Voyage. So it feels like very quick back and forth answers from both these teams.
Absolutely. And now as we look at the second ban phase, we can see jungle is the big priority for both teams to ban out here. The Olaf, the Volibear both taken away. Aatrox as well, trying to limit some of the picks that Finn can go for. Finn kind of the quintessential weak side top laner so far this split, as the set will be the final ban. So maybe we see him back on Ornn duty, but Froskurinn and Rogue are in a similar boat to where Fnatic were, because their comp is near identical outside of the Azir for the Twisted Fate. They need some physical damage.
Yeah, and you would imagine that they would find it either in the jungle or the top lane. I like the fact that Alphari grabs the blind Gangplank, even though he has the option to look for the counter pick, simply because it's been one of the options that Finn has gone to. He's primarily played Gangplank and Ornn, and we already know that Alphari is a phenomenal Gangplank player, but then you're also putting Finn a bit on the back foot by making him reach out of some of the comfort picks that he hasn't necessarily shown on stage as he hovers the Wukong.
He is going to take it, and of course couldn't have really locked in the Ornn there because the team would have been in dire need of physical damage. Could of course come from the jungle position. We're going to see what Inspired wants to go for here. Excited to see Finn's Wukong on the top side of the map, but nervous for him. Alphari is a terror on that top side, and more champions that are good against immobile champions, Froskurinn, and that Trundle pillar is going to be a nightmare for OG to deal with.
I also think Trundle's really good with Azir. Azir can take basically the entire jungle and not punish Trundle because he's a pretty low econ jungler. He doesn't require a ton of farm or a ton of resources. And then his pillar works so well for setting Azir to just shred people with Sand Soldier. So I still think this is going to be a Larssen show on this Azir and teaming up with Inspired as we look at these team comps. But obviously if Finn or Hansama start to pop off, they can do some damage with these champions. As there's the Xerxe special.
I love it. Gragas finally coming in. It was the champion that won so many early games in spring for Origen. Have to see what it can do in summer. Of course, offers a bit of disengage for both the Trundle and the Wukong to get them off of those some of those more vulnerable, less mobile backliners like the GP, the Orianna, or the Ashe, but will require Xerxe to play on point, because if you're late on that cask, well, your champions are all going to be dead by the time you throw it.
Yeah, but they have some great disengage options, not just that cast, but also the Tahm Kench. So I do see what you're saying. He's their primary disengage, but it does help that Destiny is on the Kench. And kind of looking at both these composition, we have a lot of players playing champions that they're really famous for. You know, Xerxe on his Gragas, Alphari pulling out the Gangplank. You have Larssen on his Azir. So I'm actually just pretty stoked to see kind of an Azir specialist, a Gragas specialist showcase their stuff on the Rift.
As am I, Froskurinn, but it's time. Fourth game of the day, Rogue versus OG. Who will take the game? That song is a total and absolute jam. I cannot help but dance every single time, Froskurinn. Anyway, we're here on the Rift, and this game has the potential to be very explosive, but part of me, Froskurinn, suspects that we may be waiting for level 6 again. When I see an Ashe, I expect a little bit of early lane dominance followed by, well, mostly waiting to use arrows to get kills.
Whoa. We could theoretically see something pretty early on in the mid game. Now, Gragas has great ganks, obviously at level 2 and level 3 over other junglers. Trundle has also been known to gank level 2. And why I bring this up is because Larssen's going to have push priority against Nukeduck. The Azir versus Orianna matchup early on is going to give Azir the ability to shove in the wave faster if he contests for it. And so there's the possibility that Xerxe does swing around and try to punish Larssen before level 5, maybe get that flash out of him early so there's some kill pressure once they do tick over to level 6. So that's what I'm actually watching for. If it's going to be just some full clears from both the junglers, maybe go for the Predator and then look for the gank, or if Xerxe is going to get a little bit cheeky. And speaking of cheeky,
an especially good call out for Froskurinn, because now we do see that more aggressive pathing coming in from Inspired, and it looks like they want to isolate the top side of the map, and this is really big because when you look at Finn versus Alphari as an individual lane matchup, ignore that. The game is, I believe, continuing as normal. Hold that thought. Nukeduck has now been caught out. This is going to be huge. Massive plays coming in for Rogue. Nukeduck will not have to burn any summoners, but may have to back and TP into lane.
Drakos, is it time?
Are we seeing the fully aggressive game? Do you want? Is it time, Froskurinn? I'll leave the call to you.
Run it.
Marcus, do the thing. We've been waiting the entire season. We wanted to know, and Rogue versus Origen felt like the perfect time. Vote now in chat. Will it be the siesta or the fiesta? That's the nap or the party for those who aren't multilingual. What are we gonna get?
I've already got my party hat turned on right there. Xerxe was caught out by that ward right there, so we should see Larssen start to cheat towards the top side of the map, knowing that there's the potential that Xerxe could come up behind him. And this is what Vedius was talking on the desk. Origen have changed up their playstyle. Yeah, it still feels like they're playing more of these scaling-oriented compositions, but they are being much more proactive on the map. In that same breath, Rogue are also developing their macro and playing around their vision games well. You've heard us say it again and again, and I'm going to repeat it. Rogue have a phenomenal vision game, and that's not just about how many wards you place, it's about what information you show on the wards, how you manipulate that information to manipulate your opponent, and how you starve them of vision and exert so much pressure over the map. So both of these teams have gotten much better, but it hasn't necessarily changed the end result of what you're seeing in the playstyle of they play a more controlled oriented game.
But no matter how they play, it is clear what the audience wants, and it is the fiesta. And audience, I am with you. I love early aggression. I love that Larssen is throwing sand soldiers into the face of Nukeduck, and for 69, now 70% of you, nice. This is going to be an absolute banger, because Larssen is fearlessly walking past the tower here, and maybe a bit too confident, but still going for it anyway.
Of course, Larssen playing with fire right there, had the flash. Now, I will point out that VandeR's gank on Nukeduck really set Larssen up for this to be hyper-aggressive and basically dissuade Xerxe from even turning and looking for that gank there, knowing that Nukeduck had already been chunked out so much. Now, credit to Nukeduck, he did manage to hang on to his flash. Wow. He had to get back to that minion wave so fast that he did it without going full health. Which is actually super important. Let's see if Larssen punishes him for it.
Goes for it. It's also important to note as well, we have Comet versus Phase Rush. So while Nukeduck has a bit more mobility, a bit more resistance to especially Trundle ganks early on, he is going to suffer a little bit in terms of individual damage output. Nice highlight there earlier from the observers showing that both top laners have burned TP here in the early game. And now we see Alphari getting the setup on the top side from Xerxe. Feels a bit overconfident to me, but they are spending a lot of time here. Xerxe seems somewhat committed to this one.
He's got the Predator boots. I think they're just waiting for Finn to dive in before they pull the trigger on that one, but you're correct. He is going to disengage here as, oh, that's unlucky. I just complimented you for your vision game.
Does get spotted out. It feels like we've just traded back and forth sides now, but is going to get the Krugs. They'll know exactly where he is. In the meantime,
to his credit, using the sweeper that early to check for wards behind the Dragon Pit. Like, you would assume that your bot lane would keep track of if the enemy bot lane peeks up and places a ward into that tri-brush. So I'm still going to say, well played from Inspired. Okay. He was making sure that the more clever ward wasn't there.
Yes, but we did also say that the OG bottom lane, well, the OG bottom lane upset on this Ashe especially would have a lot of early push priority. Can just continue to harass with that volley. See if he goes for the back cancel here. Good body block from VandeR, but still Hansama will use a Dark Sphere and stick around in this lane.
Now keeping themselves really safe here by doing a good job holding the wave. One of the nice things about Ashe is that, you know, she doesn't just push really well. Once she gets you under the tower, she can punish you really hard. Obviously with the reach of the volley. Although, because they are playing weak side since Xerxe has reset, VandeR's like, thumbs up, yeah, you need to back off. You don't know where the jungler is.
Inspired is hovering around the bottom side, so good call to back now. Froskurinn, when we talked about this game, similar styles from what we've seen historically, although growing differences now as both these teams evolve, but different players was the big thing for me, and I want to, assuming we don't get a gank here in the bottom line, all right, we got time. I want to talk about top lane, because top lane is where I see one of the biggest differences, because right now, out of all the top laners, Alphari is a monster. No one can deny that. And for Finn, he's been a weak side top laner, and sadly a weak side top laner. You just CS at 10, 67 on average for him. Alphari 83.6. Massive difference in just the raw numbers. Finn usually suffering in CS, Alphari almost always dominating, and that makes me nervous for Finn as we get later in the game.
And Finn's been trying to experiment, kind of find what's working for him. He pulled up the Alawi, trying to get some of those clever counter picks just last week. But I do agree with you, Finn still has a lot of maturing and growing to do on the LEC stage. I do think that he plays weak side pretty well, in that, like a Rome, he's not a bad player, he's just a team player. Like, he's one of those players that will use the TP to TP to his team skirmishing on the other side of the map as he does go in.
Already walking away, that's going to be the double alt proc coming in for Finn. Alphari, though, still fine in the trade. Finn burning through a lot of mana there, and he's going to force the wave in, but important to note, that's Wukong ult. That's a lot of kill pressure gone, while Alphari still has the cannon barrage to help out anywhere else on the map.
Yeah, and I think Alphari's just being respectful, but he doesn't necessarily know where the enemy team is. You actually saw him back off the wave a little bit, but now he should feel really confident to step forward now that Destiny and Upset have spotted out Inspired on the other side of the map, stealing away this blue buff. So punishing.
I love, because we normally talk about blue buff steals, but that was legitimately a blue buff steal. They literally picked it up out of the, they kidnapped that blue buff and took it into the river. That was, man, that was some wild stuff there. And this is difficult.
But this is going to impact the jungle matchup further. Obviously, with Orianna not having access to blue, Nukeduck is just like running out of options here. He's like, this Azir has me under the tower at all times. I don't have blue now. I'm just going to try to push as hard as possible and then quickly refresh and run back into the mid lane and do it all over again. But with him not having blue, there should be bigger opportunities for Rogue to maximize the use of their mid priority.
And additionally, that blue buff ticked Hansama over to level 6 well before Upset. A lot of additional experience for him. And so now there's a lot more kill pressure bottom lane. So whereas maybe before OG could feel comfortable looking for a 2v3 with that gank, they have to be very careful, because without that Tahm Kench Devour, someone will just get one shot.
Very confident wave being set up. Hansama is by himself, however. Origen don't know that, as VandeR is actually slipping up to the top side. I actually really like when supports gank from this side of the map. Like, obviously the Herald is also in play, but a lot of supports will actually walk to the top side because it's more often than not warded on the bot side. And often you can catch mid laners unaware coming from this top side because they'll usually ward the other pixel brush.
And additionally, because we just don't have a level 6 coming in from Gragas yet, because we're kind of trailing behind in a lot of different places for OG, they just really don't have any way to contest this objective at this point, and that means that Rogue are going to get first Herald, really in exchange for nothing. Now OG will try to trade the Drake here for it, but still, we have Rogue ahead in tempo at this moment. If they use that Herald quickly, they might be able to get something else.
And Origen are a team that really prioritize Drakes more so over Herald, as he's hitting you with the crab right there. And it's this idea that the towers are standing gold, so you're going to get them anyway. So like, if the Herald translates into gold, I guess the theory is that eventually you'll get those towers down if your plan is to actually win the game. So you go for the stat gold of the Drake, which is like never going to come back up again, and then you also unlock the soul that much faster.
And I think the soul is the really big important part there for Froskurinn, because it does give you more agency in the game, because you giving up a single Drake will be inconsequential to you when you have 3 Drakes, but it guarantees that short of a truly crazy enemy team, they will have to contest you. They will have to come to that pit and be willing to fight you. For now, though, about a 1k gold lead in favor of Rogue. Feels like a lot of that coming from mid lane, as Larssen has just been continuing to be so obnoxious. You said it earlier, Froskurinn, but Larssen, he's getting every blue buff. He's feeling good. Nukeduck, he's getting nothing. The only thing he got this game is a level 1 gank from VandeR.
And again, it's the fact that it's also then bleeding into the jungle specifically. You can see Inspired versus Xerxe. Inspired's already starting to get a level lead there. And just being so obnoxious setting up this dive. The wave's about to crash for Hansama and VandeR. See if they follow through. I think because they're spotted out. Nope. If they had information on Xerxe, maybe they try to go for it. Maybe they really respect Arrow and Devour, but instead they pivot, and Nukeduck's like warding his flanks. Like they're hunting. Rogue are like, we're either diving bottom or we're diving mid. You pick.
They're set up to do a lot of damage mid, potentially take it. And this is going to be a nightmare game for Nukeduck. If he loses mid this early on as the cheeky thumbs up comes out from Larssen, he's going to have a really hard time just farming in a side lane because Orianna, very vulnerable champion. Fortunately, has enough to just one-shot the wave. So Nukeduck will catch this one. Yes, he will take out the Herald before it's able to charge. Nope, never mind. Wow, that's embarrassing. Can't kill that one. Half-healthed. Rogue getting maximum value.
Oh, turn away. It hurts. Oh, okay. If you're an Origen fan, it's fine. Just take a deep breath. There's still plenty of game left to play. If you're a Rogue fan, you're feeling great right now. You're like, we are destroying this map right now. We have so much gold. Look at that gold lead on top of your screen. It tastes good. We're now going to swap lanes. We can start playing around the top side. Alphari, he's overextended. He won't be able to farm forever.
Yeah, and the
pressure game's starting to pay
knockup
off.
from Wukong means those oranges are not going to make a lot of things okay. One of them being a 3-man gank on the top side. But Froskurinn, we saw in pick ban the priority to shut down the Rogue bottoms lane, how they were just taking away every single priority AD carry. They still give up Syndra. I don't know if they were trying to call a bluff there, but the Rogue bottom lane has been fine. Meanwhile, the mid lane has suffered. He gave Azir to Larssen. It's not been a good look, but maybe it starts to look different now, although as the arrow goes wide...
No, it's worse. It's a worse look.
Oh,
it's a worse look.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're an Origen fan, what you can do is you turn off your monitor for a second. Wow, Origen, they're doing so great. Okay, now turn it back on, and I'll pretend like something really cool happened to balance out what was a very sad situation for you, and we can all just continue forward.
I'm also going to say, credit to Hansama there. He had some fancy footwork. He dodged both the arrow and the tongue, and you can't... I will refuse to believe anything else.
There you go. Well played by Hansama. Difficult game for Origen so far, and I think I kind of feel the same way about those early Tahm, Kench, and never mind. We're just kidnapping blue buffs. That's the name of the game. We're stealing them away. They never get to go home again to see their families. This time it belongs to Nukeduck. That's it, folks. Soft round of applause, a golf clap for Nukeduck. He finally got one.
He's on the board. Unfortunately, they are losing so much of their jungle. See if Xerxe can make it happen. Does have cask. Oh!
All right, difficult was trying to set it up. Maybe was hoping to bait Larssen to step forward there, but we'll call it a late cask. Means that nothing's going to happen.
He's level 10.
Yeah, to the level 7 of Xerxe. Alphari, though, is getting very aggressive. This is the man we had our eye on to get stuff done, and Finn is definitely suffering here, but the Conqueror finally procced. Of course, nerfed on this patch. Goes up to 12 stacks now. The flash out for Finn. That's the GP ult. The barrel now set up. Finn trying to turn this one. Just going to take a gun to the face. Alphari buying time, but won't overcommit. There's no one here, but Alphari still does not want to risk the dive.
Does mean that the shining light for Origen is still here, as Xerxe is also looking to double up with Alphari. Here comes the TP.
Goes invisible, gets the second knockup. Alphari running for his life. Spin, monkey spin. Finn trying to hold on. Nukeduck's going to grab one. Now wants to grab another. Larssen walking into the play here. Hansama there as well. Yes, Origen grab a kill, but still 2k gold behind here as it is the 1-for-1 on the top side.
Hansama was hunting for that flash. He approached that wall and he's like, I've got flash, I can go for this. Decides not to pull the trigger on it. Infernal spawning in 16 seconds. Teams need to start to reset, which is why you see Larssen and Hansama rotating down from the top side to pick up this Infernal, hopefully.
And it looks like Rogue, yeah, with first access to the pit means that Origen are not going to be able to continue to push on Drakes as a win condition or as a way to force a fight here up against Rogue. They're just going to even up the Drake score as they grab this Infernal. Maybe we see Alphari contest. Important to note, though, no ult for Xerxe, no ult for Gangplank, and no ult for Nukeduck. Xerxe should be off cooldown momentarily, but this should be uncontestable, and OG, they're just not going to risk it.
VandeR! That was so... I mean, ultimately, Syndra didn't get involved in the play, but VandeR's body block there on the arrow for Hansama to use the TP.
I missed it. I was on the wrong screen. Did I just talk over a replay?
I know. I was like, and Drakos hasn't swapped to look at the replays. That's fine.
Look, I'll cast real time and you cast replays, and people will just tune one of us out depending on what information that they want. My bad. There's too much. We're both technology versus the LEC. It's really our biggest rivalry. Is casters versus technology.
I see we're not the mom and dad cast tonight. We're the dumb and mad.
No, we're
cast
definitely
tonight.
the mom and dad cast. We just thought we were a different generation of mom and dad. We're like your old mom who calls when there's like a virus on the computer and is like, why is it running so slow? Yeah.
That's just Origen.
No.
I'm sorry. That was last one.
Okay. we'll stop with the shots. It's a 2K, again, 15 minutes, we'll reset. Even Drakes, 2K gold lead for Rogue. Me, very scared for upset as we move into these fights, as Destiny's gonna have to sit right next to him for the rest of the game. So many strong members on the Rogue lineup, and despite what looked like a difficult early lane phase for Finn, he is getting more comfortable as he gets more items under his belt.
And also, you know, Finn doesn't necessarily have to be a kill threat. I mean, he already is going to be to the Ashe, but he doesn't have to be the hard carry here for how far ahead Larssen is. So I don't necessarily mind that Finn is struggling a bit, just because this Azir is still a very healthy boy.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the value of Wukong is always going to be those team fights, the double knockups. And we saw earlier him getting kind of kicked around in trades, but still is always going to have that ult threat. Hansama has to be careful here, but another one goes wide for the OG bottom lane. And sadly, Upset is now completely out of mana, so both he and Destiny will have to retreat. Second Herald going to be used now by Rogue. Alphari wants to get something back here. Finn now needs to make it out of the area. He's going to go for one knockup. He's going to use the clone. He's going to go for a second. Xerxe in theory going to be trouble. Finn spinning around. Finn is going to drop. Tower aggro will reset, and OG avoid disaster, but are not able to break the tower yet.
That was a little close for comfort, however. A lot of these skill shots from Origen's camp today are not looking great, but that one did.
VandeR hits the perfect hook, and just like that, Destiny's not in range. Inspired throws down a pillar, and there is no hope for upset.
Rogue are tired of being baby Origen. They are really putting this team down. It feels like Alphari is kind of the last hope, at least for now. See if he gets out of this one. I think he's
Run
good.
To safety. Ooh. Larssen goes in, and Alphari, yeah, felt like the last light of hope there, but we can see that the Wukong just scales so incredibly well that even with GP farming on a side lane, it just might not be enough. Upset only on one item at this point in the game. Not unreasonable, it is only 17 minutes in, but Blade of the Rune King is not going to save him from that Syndra as we move later and later. And Destiny without a flash means the opportunities to protect are fewer and far between.
I actually want to touch on that teleport a little bit. I don't think that this will be the play, but it is a possibility. Alphari's TP won't be up by the time Baron spawns. It would be an exceptionally early Baron, and you are against an Ashe who can always scout that one for free relatively safely, but you do have an Azir, and the potential to 2- or 3-man the Baron is quite intense if you decide to play with the teleport advantage. So I don't think that's what Rogue are going to do, but it certainly could be an option while Alphari is waiting for that cooldown to come back.
Certainly have to open up their own possibilities, and of course, additionally, a teamfight win for Rogue opens up the Baron, makes it much more likely, and with a Wukong who has a TP up in the hands of Finn, finding a single flank could turn a fight in their favor. Rogue certainly have more than enough tools to kick a fight off, as we see Xerxe giving them respect and just dashing out to safety. This is brutal for Froskurinn, and Rogue are kind of just taking things away from Origen. Origen not really able to respond, just playing farm gold onto our carries, wait, stall, get a few more items, and then try to fight, because in the meantime, Rogue are taking everything that they want.
And unfortunately, Origen aren't pressuring them at all. I was looking at the gold leads from like gold difference at 10 to 15 to 20, and Rogue are one of the only teams in our league right now that just have like a steady, like equal trajectory upwards. Like the line never really dips. They double their gold basically at every single thing, and it's this idea that once they get the dominoes rolling for them, because they play such kind of clean, methodical formula League of Legends, that as soon as you give them a lead, you just sprint away from the enemy team. And unless you're a Mad Lion or a G2 or a Fnatic, maybe even a Misfits, these teams that kind of have these very chaotic play styles that can just kind of throw a wrench into all of your plans, not in Origen, I kind of feel like whoever got the lead in this game was just going to run away with it, and that seems to be the case right now.
Well, it's doubled down by the compositions, right? Because as great as Ashe and Orianna are, outside of hiding in a bush or a miracle long-range arrow, you know what they're going to do. They're very linear in terms of what their options are. Gragas is the real variable champion here, but Xerxe, from the start of the game, where Inspired is invading, where he's getting put behind, has not been able to be effective on this champion to really have any kind of creative flank or play, has just been responding to what Rogue have been doing.
I also feel like the other X factor is Alphari, particularly on a side lane. Obviously his teleport cooldown is going to come back up in a couple of minutes there, but he's still getting a ton of gold, a ton of experience. It's level 13 to level 11, so maybe that's an option for Origen. Getting this guy in a team fight, he's going to hit like a truck. Playing him in a side lane could also be a variable, but that's... I'm starting to really slant towards Rogue, and I'm just like, oh, maybe Alphari can pull it out being that superstar that we know he is, but right now, very healthy lead for Rogue.
Absolutely the case. And level 13 for mini champions isn't that crucial, but for Gangplank it's hugely important. Max rank and barrels as well as the parlay, which means your team fight damage output is maxed pretty much outside of the extra point and ult.
Yep.
Room Scurvy obviously nice, but doesn't help you deal more damage. And Larssen now pushing in here on the bottom side. Pillar gonna come out, zone Nukeduck away. Shockwave goes in, but just used to clear waves here. And Larssen gets a bit aggressive, sticks around a little bit longer.
He's gotta watch the arrow. He has flash. Wow, Upset didn't even try for it.
Got GP on the top side push again. I guess they just really want to play only for Alphari as Finn takes a big chunk there, but does just clone out to safety. Oh, takes a second chunk, and then gets shot in the back. There you go.
Yeah, and Alphari unfortunately now has to disengage because he knows that the rest of Rogue have reset on the map, and there's the potential that they're running topside to try to punish him, so... I don't know, it feels like Origen are being a bit indecisive. The fact that they didn't even try to throw the arrow there, maybe you get the flash out of Larssen, instead they just let him walk away, and I'm just, you know, what's happening in the comms? Do you need to throw the arrow there? Do you lose much if you don't throw it? Because you gain a ton if you do.
Yeah, and if it's going to connect, I feel like that's a risk, you know, that's a worthwhile trade, because unless you're fighting in the next minute, which outside of losing a massive team fight, there's no real objective to fight over. Baron doesn't feel like it's on the table for Rogue quite yet, although Upset steps forward. Wave gets pushed
Didn't get the Banshee Veil.
And that's it. And that's kind of where we're at, Froskurinn, and that's sad, because we are just playing for, can you take down the Banshee's Veil on that setup? And they put 3 members there, but the second they don't get that Banshee's Veil, the setup stops in its tracks.
Yeah, and it's also the fact that now multiple Banshee Veils have come out. Rogue with their lead are able to have it on their 2 big carries, as well as the Gargoyle Stoneplay on Nautilus, and then a very tanky Trundle. So there's not a lot of options, even if Origen do manage to tag someone with this arrow, as there's the 2-man Baron we were talking about.
Yep, Azir with more than enough damage, inspired with more than enough health. It would have been a long Baron, but certainly one they could have taken if uncontested. A good hawk shot from OG, that ward over the wall there, so it allowed them to see Azir diving into the pit.
And now I'm curious kind of when Origen will draw the line and maybe start looking for these desperation plays. Fnatic and G2 have said it time and time again in their interviews whenever we do have like an Origen versus top of the table matchup, that they're not a team that necessarily changes the rule book or finds these miracle performances. It's always about their consistency. And I feel like we are now consistently watching the top end of the LEC fall. You know, yeah, Fnatic just took down SK, but, you know, G2, Fnatic, they're on the down. And now if Origen are taken down by Rogue, this truly cements that the rookies have risen up, that our normal top 3 of the LEC have fallen down.
And this is really especially important for Rogue, because when you look at the perceived top 4 coming into the split, that is Mad Lions, Rogue, or Mad Lions, Origen, Fnatic, and additionally OG. They're 1-2 currently. And we were criticizing them because their initial win streak looked so sad when you took into account that they immediately started losing to top teams. But if they win here, they're 2-2 against a lot of the perceived top teams. And I think that can put a lot of Rogue fans' hearts at ease, because you know that they can match these top teams when they are set up for success.
Especially when they play the map and not necessarily just running into 5v5s. I always like Rogue's chances best when a star like Larssen is just given a ton of time to farm and just build up onto extreme item advantages. His Corkis, his Azirs come to mind, and this guy can just like hard win you fight. So my favorite Rogue game is when they play out the map, they snowball gold leads, and then Larssen just has like an item advantage, and you get to see him just be a monster in team fights rather than him skirmishing and playing scrappy fights throughout the entire game.
I do love it. I obviously prefer scrappy fights. I'm a sucker for it, but I have to respect map-wide League of Legends, and once again, Upset is not able to connect there on the volley, so the Banshee's Veil is not taken away, and Rogue, they're slowly but surely chipping away at OG, pushing their vision line further and further forward as OG are forced to put control wards in their own jungle just to protect what little territory they do have.
So Origen are going to fall back to their old school team fight ways. And this is what they do, despite their composition being set up for it or not. We saw it when they were playing kind of that 1-3-1 or 1-4 comp and just decided to fight with the Mordekaiser anyway instead of playing side lane. They like almost can't help themselves. They're like, okay, back's against the wall. We have one last option. We're going to play for the team fight. Good thing is that this comp certainly can play for it. But if you're an Origen fan, that's what you're looking for. You're like, I need the Miracle team fight over the Baron, maybe over the Drake. They have some room on the Drake that they continue to stack items, but the Baron is definitely under threat right now.
Just gonna start this one off, and this is the worst case because they can do the two-man Marin, because it's just Inspired and Larssen standing right here. There's a Syndra and a Nautilus waiting in the darkness to one-shot anyone who steps forward. Good news is the Hawkshot will spot one of them. Not clear if it spotted Syndra or not. That's upset taken forward. Big knockback comes in from Hansama. He's gonna throw a ball over the wall, but not much else follow up there. Sidestep on the arrows. It is gonna hit one, and it's only Finn taken out. The barrel will not connect. So OG are there. Hansama a little aggressive here. Is now being caught out, but OG do not want to commit to that.
Yeah, Hansama did have the flash and also recognizes that he can play rather aggressive because Xerxe's cast went down relatively early. That said, I'm still going to say a pretty big win for Origen to force Rogue off of it. I don't necessarily feel that Origen hard outscale Rogue. I think that they also have some great scaling options, but obviously, Origen's comp doesn't do terrible on 3 or 4 items, 5 if we go farther and farther.
Yeah, and the one thing is that we always talk about immobile AD carries being really vulnerable to the likes of a Gangplank, and immobile Syndras are a similar story. So the later we get when that cask, or when the setup is actually there and they can finish the Syndra off once she's been caught out, that GP ult is going to be a problem for Rogue.
It's just such an issue in terms of the itemization difference right now. Like, Origen really have to buckle in because they're pretty far behind. Upset has just finished his Hurricane right now, so Ashe sitting on Bork Hurricane. Obviously not going to be able to output that much damage. He's mostly there to control the fight, so you're really looking at Alphari being the big muscle to mow people down here, whereas Rogue, it feels like they have damage threats every which way.
And you can see in the damage delta champions across the entire game that this is pretty much...
Is that 45?
What? Oh, it is 45. Oh, wow. I thought you were saying like 45,000? Like a big number? No, that's 45. Inspired knows his place. He throws the pillar and he hits the dragon. That's his job.
Drakos, what is more shocking to you? If someone did 45,000 damage or if someone did 45?
I was going to say 45,000 given that the biggest number I can see on my screen is 9,000. So I thought like I was going blind. Was I like having a stroke right here? Like, did I clearly miss something?
That's half an auto attack.
He hasn't. I don't think he's hit a champion. Maybe he
threw the fist and then he pulled
What did he do? Is he ulted? Is it? But even ult would do that much damage. How did he do only 45 damage? It must have been one auto in the early game. If you know, let us know on Twitter, because I'm very curious what the 45 damage exactly came from.
Larssen doesn't play with Q. Never needed it.
Inspired.
Oh, excuse me, inspired.
What? All right, that's a mystery for later. Like, if there was ever a time to bring back Medius and Vedius, it was in the case of doing exactly 45 damage. That's like a level 1 auto attack. Anyway, Rogue are pushing in the bot lane. They get a tower for free uncontested, and OG are continuing to farm. Back to you, Frosk.
That just takes playing the map to a whole nother level. If you can win this game only doing 45 damage.
This man doesn't understand. They told him MOBAs were multiplayer online battle arenas. He's like, nah, man. Nah, it's single player versus creeps battle arena. We need a new acronym.
Okay. I'm done with that one. Let's move on.
All right, again, 28 minutes. Rogue are very much in control. Scaling, I feel like, comes down to GP. You've already seen 9K damage coming from Alphari over the course of the game, but it has just generally been a very low damage game. There have not been a ton of fights. It's 2 kills to 2 kills, and folks, I'm sorry, we might have jinxed it with our graphic at the start of the game. We all wanted Fiesta. It's a little bit of a siesta right now. That said, Rogue winning the siesta game. They're coming in. It's slow. It's controlled. You love to see it from this team, but for OG, it's got to be some sign of life, because at this point, you are just bleeding out.
I'm watching the picture-in-picture of the observers here. I think they're showing us where the auto attack came from.
Oh.
It's an intense run. No, they're actually just showing.
I think we must have missed
control ward getting chunked out.
Did we miss it? I don't know. We'll get context, because I feel like I wasn't watching, so I feel like maybe they showed us that 45 damage.
Do damage to wards count?
No, Frosk, I'm trusting our observers on this one, because they did us good last time and we missed it, so I'm just going to assume that they're right.
I always assume that they're right. Listen, I'm casting on like 6 monitors right now. Got the control
Where's it coming from?
in front of me.
Cinderhulk immolate passive,
Origen.
when he landed a pillar, it did damage. Vedius has confirmed it. That is what we were shown. Oh,
arrow!
That's going to be the GP ult for the follow-up. Now that Syndra's going to be in trouble. They're trying to run him down, but VandeR's just buying a bit more time. Big barrel comes in from Alphari. There goes the cask. Down goes Hansama and OG. They're going to find 2 just like that. Back in the game. If they get this Baron, they're in absolute control.
They really need to respect the fact that Larssen is still massive, however. So while Origen are put in a situation of desperation, especially because Finn is pushing the bottom side of the map, Larssen can ruin their day. Here comes Wukong.
Big flank on the backside. Here comes Finn, leaps in. That's one knockup. He's exhausted. He goes forward. He gets the second knockup. That's two. It's Larssen on the backside. OG, they need to get something done. Larssen, can he fire forward? But no, he dashes in, he leaps in, but it's not going to be enough. They're shutting him down. Larssen, oh, he oversteps, and Rogue were not welcome in that pit. They tried to show up anyway, and OG are going to be able to grab this one. Inspired, it's all eyes on you. Can you steal this Baron?
We have the reset coming in. Nukeduck does have teleport. He's just restocking his mana, restocking his health, and then it's his job to zone away Inspired. Nukeduck is on the case as VandeR is racing towards this pit. Here comes another TP.
They're burning everything. Every single resource left in the game. Hansama going forward, maybe. Can Syndra steal
Syndra.
it? Syndra looking for the setup. You gotta get it! Hansama, are you kidding me? Rogue throw the entire game away. OG win a beautiful fight, but it's not enough. The shutdowns come through, and Hansama makes the impossible possible.
They just can't catch a break! Oh my...
I take it back, folks. It's a fiesta. It's everything we wanted.
Disaster! Oh no! The miracle team fight, the gorgeous arrow that catch Hansama, and he giveth, and then he taketh away. That was beautiful.
Here we go. When the action starts, it never stops, Froskurinn. It's fight, fight, fight till everybody's dead. They're all committed. Alphari's got his items, and they're ready this time around.
They have to contest for soul. Now Larssen does have teleport, and I think Rogue are fine just taking their foot off the gas here. They say it's Origen's only second Drake. Larssen is picking up blue buff. There's no reason to give away the TP, especially when they still have Baron on so many.
But here's that replay. And it's the one shot that counts. He flashes and he gets hit by it anyway. Upset finally lands the miracle arrow.
From flashing in place to getting hit by the arrow to stealing the Baron, that is the two-face of replays here.
The duality of man, I think we can safely say.
Okay, how close was it? I'm watching Xerxe. 1400. 961.
Oh, and he dies too, no. All right, what I will say is it shows the power of Ashe that all it takes is a single arrow to change the game, but it also shows how difficult this game has been for Xerxe, because he just has not, it's not been a good one.
It has been very rough for some of the key cooldowns for Origen. Glass half full though, Rogue have played a really good game. Outside of that miracle Origen play where they found that team fight, Rogue have basically been in control and just suffocating Origen.
I want you to do a monologue tomorrow where you go like, yesterday was a day defined by oopsies. This oopsie in the mid lane, that oopsie in the Fnatic game, potentially an oopsie here from Alphari as he will get caught out, double knockup. Inspired stepping forward, stealing away some of those resistances.
Where's your oops now?
Hit. 2 for 2 from Upset. Early game, he can't hit a shot, but late game, when it matters most, he finds the arrows.
Just a couple more Barons left. That said, there's still a bunch of Banshee Veils on the Azir and the Syndra, so Upset needs to find the targets. I don't know where
Yeah, it's fine.
He's got to hit the right.
He's got to continue to hit the good arrows, and he's almost level 16 now, so even more arrows coming out. We check in on the build. I usually love the Essence rerun Ashe just because you get that sweet, sweet CDR, but he's opted for the Maw Malmortius, hugely effective against the two primary damage threats, and it means that Rogue really can't take a team fight without Finn in the area.
I understand that you want like the CDR because you want to throw out those arrows, be that team fight, but I agree with Upset's build right now. His job is literally just to be Ashe support. He is here for Alphari. He is following up on him. He is 0, 1, and 5. Upset is doing the perfect job right now because he's not the guy who's dealing the damage.
And look, I like the transition into the Alphari show. When the early game in those first few plays didn't transition out in bot lane, clearly they know exactly how to adapt here on the side of OG. They've been here before. The Alphari Gangplank carry, we've all seen it. Of course, can G2 win without perks? That's our question from next game. G2 Esports versus Misfits Gaming. And it is time for your boy, Pinoy. If you don't know who he is, you'll find out after this game because we got a lot to say about the OG Graves Master.
Yeah, but I still got a lot of questions about this. Okay, so checking on itemization. We just talked about how Upset, took the right-hand turn, went for the defensive itemization because he's dealing with a very fed Azir and a very strong Hansama on Syndra, and also the fact that Xerxe has more AP, went for the Hourglass on the Gragas, and it feels like arrow connects to vital target, and then you're lobbing them from the three-pointer. You're just trying to land on either Azir or Hansama and hoping that they instantly die if you're an Origen fan. If you're a Rogue fan, you're feeling really confident for this upcoming Drake.
And you should. And also Upset lands another Miracle Arrow right here. One will connect onto VandeR, but the cask, not the one that they needed. VandeR flashes out, and it means the cask takes him to safety.
It's not super punishing for Origen to throw the cooldowns right there because, again, you still have a lot of time before the important Drake fight for the soul comes up.
Isolated off to the side, but now the shutdown goes in on a Nukeduck. Upset trying to throw down a little bit of damage here, but Xerxe caught out before anything else can happen. Finn now zooming back to the safety of his team. GP ult used to disengage safely. Rogue now have priority access to the mid lane. They're going to TP from the mid lane into the top lane to apply 2 points of pressure, and OG overstay their welcome.
And we were just kind of talking about from the Origen lens, the fact they're like, oh, you know, Dragon's gonna spawn in a minute, our cooldowns will be back up, they can't punish us. Rogue are like, yes, we can. Immediately pull the trigger on the TP, and then find a massive fight to pressure, like you said, 2 points of contact here with Baron and Soul spawning in a minute.
And Upset has no mana, so he has to back off despite being full health because he needs the volleys, he needs that zone control. Hansama absolutely fearless here. Alphari, the only one that they're really worried about at this stage of the game. It's gonna take an extended fight for Upset to be relevant, so it's 2 free inhibitors for Rogue on the back of honestly, an over-aggressive play from the side of OG. Froskurinn, we just said it was all about Alphari. Upset was utility, and he's about the 3-point shots. But the thing is, he needed the alley-oop. Without Alphari in the area, he cannot kill anyone in a single rotation.
Listen, the alley-oop was supposed to be Xerxe, but VandeR, quick fingers on the flash, just got pushed to safety.
Ooh, inspired, though. Quick fingers on the pillar to make it out of this one. Actually,
if they kill him, 20 seconds till Baron. They have immediately changed their mind and realized that this was a terrible decision.
Sweet double sweepers coming out. The retreat comes in from Rogue. 1 chance to reset here. They might not even take it. So they could.
Okay, but there are important things happening on the map. You can see that Upset and Nukeduck are actually taking the Dragon by themselves, which is why Rogue are now starting the Baron. So Nukeduck has pulled off. He's racing to his team. Upset should actually just throw the arrow from here.
Oh, both teams side at sold point, though, and OG ultimately get what they want. Meanwhile, Rogue do not feel comfortable committing fully to the Baron, especially after the fiasco that was the last Baron fight. But now we've got 2 major points of pressure for both lineups, the Baron, and in 5 minutes, the guaranteed Cloud Soul for either one of these teams.
And Origen are gonna make Rogue work for it. Rogue have been in control for majority of this game, but Origen are not going quietly into the night, still kind of finding these small windows where they can pull things back. But I feel like playtime is about to end. Look at Rogue's items.
Yeah, that's full build for almost 2 AP carries here. And Xerxe maybe can get frisky and try to find something, but at this point he's just hunting for Banshee's Veils because those are 2 very scary carries. And even Wukong is approaching that 3rd item point, so game is only going to get harder for OG, while Alphari, lucky for him, there's not really any healing reduction on the side of Rogue, so that Death Dance is going to do some work, but not nearly enough to allow him to 1v5 unless he finds the perfect setup.
One of the nicer things is that Wukong doesn't have TP here, so it is going to be, or theoretically should be, harder for Finn to get into the backline outside of the last 2 successful teleport flanks he's had. So I guess maybe that's something going for Origen as we're looking at the next team fight.
And I really just want to see how much damage Sparrow's going to do. Nothing. Does not hit. But that's the big question, because if he starts half-healthing tanks at this point in the game, then I very much believe OG can win the team fight. But with Finn doing his best Hylissang impression here on the side, may not get the chance.
Finn's like, I don't need a teleport to flank. I can create my own.
Larssen dodging out there, but that's the big cooldown taken away from Nukeduck. He's going to phase rush out to safety.
Here comes Finn.
Finn off to the side. Nukeduck going to be in trouble. Destiny needs to... Oh, Destiny's not even in the area. Destiny caught out over the wall. Does not get a chance to retreat on that one. Alphari using the cannon barrage to disengage, but a free pick in exchange for 2 ultimates on the side of Rogue.
Rogue just creating pockets of darkness that they hide into and then exert their pressure and punish you. Expertly played right there. Really good job to Larssen mechanically 1v1, get out of that shockwave, and then Finn to find his right moment for the flank to delete Nukeduck. This is going to be a free Baron.
Definitely is. And we talked about low econ Trundle. Sadly, it's not a low econ Gragas, but he is only level 14, which means if he steps forward, he gets 1 shot. There's no chance to contest, and that is the Baron now for Rogue. We look back at this replay, and you see Larssen feeling confident.
Yeah, Destiny immediately pops the Banshee Veil. I like the game here. You know, they see Destiny and Nukeduck over the wall. And again, it's just vision games. He knows that he has the outplay. Larssen dodges away from the shockwave. Finn then finds Nukeduck on the backline. You talked about how Origen were separated. They were caught off guard and just super impressed with Rogue. This is like a perfect this is like the microcosm of everything that's been happening in the LEC. It's the idea that the younger generation are now ripping the podium away from the older generation and saying, like, you cannot just rest on your laurels. You must be better because we are ready to contest you. This was baby Origen. Rogue constantly chasing after Origen, losing in that best of 5, and now beating them at their own game.
Yeah, and so cleanly as well, outside of that one ensemble play. I feel like we have to leave that caveat in there so people understand that it wasn't quite perfect, but it's damn close, Froskurinn. 2 minutes away from this Cloud Drake. That's going to be massive. And I'm really just looking at this game from OG, that the coordination has not been there. In that fight, Destiny had Devour, but walked away. Nukeduck walks the other way. They're not able to get it, and it could have been getting out scot-free, getting all those cooldowns for nothing. But now maybe they find the fight. Barrel goes in. VandeR caught in the middle of the team. Gargoyle's story plate, though, just makes him too damn tanky. Sadly, the Shockwave going to go wide, which means the rest of Rogue now feel empowered to step forward. Tower will drop as well, and whiffing that cooldown for Nukeduck has to hurt. Those are not the ones you can afford to miss at this point.
Rogue playing slow, trying to use the Empower Recall and get Larssen back, potentially with the TP.
TPing a little bit further away, though, respecting Alphari and the potential burst damage. It's Larssen seemingly ready to scoop GP out of this fight. Alphari, though, caught out. The rest of the team now pushing forward. That's the GP flash gone. They're going to move in. They're going to take out this inhibitor as well. That's bot and top lane gone. Mid is exposed. Rogue set to close this one out nice and clean before Soul even becomes a priority, but they are going to back off. They are going to reset, and it looks like they will just contest Soul Point. Getting Cloud for themselves is massive, especially for the Wukong.
I mean, we've kind of packed this one up for Rogue, but technically, if they throw this Soul Point, if they do decide to play for the Drake and not just for the inhibs, which, okay, here we go. This is what I wanted Rogue to do. I did not want them to mess around with the Elder. I want them to just force the end here to smother Origen's base, because Origen are getting desperate.
And you can see that the arrow thrown out from Upset will not connect. A lot of poke getting thrown down here. Pillar is going to come forward, but Upset is now a little bit more comfortable with the free fire. Been pushing in on the top side. All of Rogue barreling down mid lane. Now going to break that inhibitor themselves. That's a big GP ult. Isolated Syndra, but VandeR buying so much space on this Nautilus for the rest of the team to retreat as Finn goes in for the 1v1 against Alphari. That's some revenge from the early game. Leaping in, but still denied. The heal comes out to keep Alphari alive. That's 1 life lost. Finn too over-aggressive means that Rogue will have to back away.
And immediately you see the pings. Rogue are like, we tried it. We tried to play the inhib game. We tried to end it right there, but Origen's team fighting still too strong. They have to back away for the Soul.
Ooh. And these carries are as strong as they're going to get at this point in the game, Froskurinn, so I feel like things will start to balance out more in OG's favor the later and later we get, especially now as Upset has the IE and a second Zeal item started.
It feels like, have you ever seen the movie 300?
Yes.
Okay, Origen are like the Spartans right now. And
you feel
the other side?
Okay, so you feel like these are the Immortals, which obviously loses its sting a little bit in the context of the team with a similar name, but like these, like it's inevitable, right? Like, are we looking at the barrage of arrows? Is like Origen hold up their shields together and try to survive, and they fight to the last?
No, it's like that massive army, because you have like Azir and all of his sand soldiers, and they're just like crashing down, and Origen are just like, this is where we hold them. This is our moment, man. Like, they've just lined up in front of their single inhib now, and they're praying that they can hold on.
This is the problem, and spoilers, but honestly, if you haven't seen 300 at this point, you probably weren't going to anyway. Don't lie to me.
It's like 50
they lose
years
in
old.
the end, so let's see if we get a different version this time around. Now they're stepping forward.
Caught out here.
Gonna be trouble. Destiny gets a lot of damage, but he does manage to swallow Upset up. Block a little bit of the initial burst. Rogue now retreating, but they have secured the Cloud Soul, so those ulti cooldowns are going to be very short, almost halfway to Hansama's being available again.
And that was Shockwave and Arrow burnt right there, as well as Alphari's ultimate. Unfortunately, Origen don't have anything in the tank, and this might be Rogue's big push.
Moving in, Larssen shreds through that one. Inspired takes essentially no damage here without dedicated fire, so that's going to be another inhibitor taken out. All 3 down for now. Of course, the timers are going to be desynced here, so I believe bot lane should be coming up in the next minute or so, but I don't think OG have enough time here. Upset doing what he can to clear the waves. Renan's looking good, but that's Xerxe caught out. Sand soldiers are being set up. Xerxe needs to find a way out of this one. Flash out to safety, dash out as well. Alphari taking his time. But Steric's gauge already proc before the fight even kicks off. Inspired now leaping forward. Another miracle hook manages to land. Destiny's gonna be in trouble. That's his flash burn as well. Nukeduck gonna go down. No. Buys a bit of time, a little bit more space made. Nukeduck's still alive. I can't believe it. OG are playing on the edge here. They burn every major cooldown. Rogue are trying to burn them down, but they're out of mana. Hansama doesn't have any more cooldowns to fire. Larssen doesn't have any more health, and Origen have held on to the base despite all odds.
how are they still alive here? Like you said, Origen are playing on a knife's edge. Like, again, according to Rogue, Rogue have been in control majority of this game. Praise Rogue, Rogue, Rogue. Rogue have done great. I don't want to go into the thread and be like, caster, so Origen bias. But that is crazy. The fact that Origen have been sitting with like 2 inhibs down for the longest time and are just like scraping this one out.
Yeah,
The fact that we're even here at this point.
the 300 point is feeling more and more accurate the later we go, the longer they survive. We'll see, though, if they can turn it around and make it a different story. It's also odd to make a 300 point when we got a guy named Xerxe in the game. Feels a little...
I'm unfamiliar with the lore. You've gone too deep for me.
You're like, I know it involves Spartans. You're like, I know the history, not the movie.
That movie's not really my demographic.
That's probably fair. It's, yeah, a little bit more the other end of the spectrum. Another arrow going wide, though. Is Upset still trying to throw down a bit of damage? Hansama has to be a lot more careful, though. A few more autos from Upset will certainly take him out. 5K getting lower and lower. Hansama has been isolated, but the Baron still the focus from Inspired. Only Inspired who's focusing on the Baron, however. Finn, as you said, he's in, he's waiting, he's buying a bit more time. 3K getting lower, the Baron in trouble. Can they steal this one away? It does not look like it. That is Baron for Rogue. They lose nothing in the process. They take Xerxe out, and it's double TPs back to the base. One of them is going to get canceled. Oh no, everyone on Rogue is coming in. This is it. This is certainly the last stand. Hansama here, full mana. Ready to go, poking, throwing down damage, Upset a single tower, Nukeduck there as well. Destiny, a perfect devour is necessary, but Alphari has been killed, and this should just be it. Rogue barreling into the base, a controlled game, 45 minutes. Hansama debating if they take the inhibitor, but the rest of the team just set their sights on this one, and baby Origen no more. Rogue moving up once again to the top of the table.
And I think one of my big takeaways for this game was how clean Rogue's Baron setups were. We got multiple Barons that game, and every single time the Baron steal as well as the Baron defenses, Rogue played those objectives in the setup really beautifully. And this is what we kind of started the day with, is the improvements that both of these teams have made. Origen are playing much more proactive, much more aggressive. Rogue have developed across the board in their macro game and continue to play that playstyle that they showed in spring and just perfecting it in summer. That's exactly what you want out of a young
Definitely
squad.
what you see, and holding on to second place, not willing to let that one go. Mad Lions really the only big bane of their existence, and I like that they're 2-2. I like that, yes, they're going to lose to Mad Lions, yes, they're going to struggle against G2, but they're able to take down the other teams. They're able to take down Fnatic and Origen, something that was previously unheard of. This feels like a big win for Rogue, and they won in their style. And OG, for the first time in forever, it feels like something that they prepared didn't work at all in that early to mid game. Banning out those 80 carries, Hansama still just as effective on that Syndra. He is, of course, on the Kia player of the game vote. Him, Larssen, VandeR, those are your options. Froskurinn, I don't know about you, but I'm inclined to give it to VandeR.
VandeR had a phenomenal game, constantly blocking arrows, hitting massive hooks, great CC management in terms of like CC locking opponents. I think Larssen was the big damage dealer, and also Hansama, like, none of those skill shots hit him. Blue suede shoes. That man was breaking
And to be fair, while he did die in the mid lane and almost lose the game, he did then immediately steal a Baron. So it's a pretty loaded vote, I'll be honest. There's so many good choices for you, but of course, we're soon going to hear from Larssen before G2's new bottom lane faces off against Misfits Gaming. Don't go anywhere. I can't believe it's ticking. That goes down. Caps still stepping forward. Nemesis, he doesn't have the damage at this point. G2, they're playing on the edge. They're playing like that, but they make it work. G2, my God, kick gloves be damned.
We have a pretty good idea of how Misfits plays, and I think we can adapt even if they were to show something new.
To dive the turret, but here comes the Destiny, and they will try and focus down. It was cancelled. Wow. The shockwave cancels it. Kami flashes away. Razzle takes the kill.
The hype and the wins have been getting to their heads. I think G2 are falling off, honestly. But I think, of course, they have incredible players.
And welcome back to the LEC as Rogue just took down Origen, and I have Larssen with me to talk about the game. And Larssen, your teammate VandeR just tweeted, "I was worried that this game would never end." I think we were all worried here. So tell me about the pace this game. Why was it like this?
The game started very well, right, for us. We got a big lead. But then it became a bit of a fiesta at 30 minutes because we got caught in mid lane. I think we flashed in a straight line, so Ashe arrow killed Hans. But then luckily, Hans came back and stole the Ashe. And from that, since we all died, they kind of got a comeback, and they had a very good wave clear with Ashe, Gangplank, and Orianna. So it became a typical Origen game, 50-minute thriller. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of worried as well it would never end, but I'm really happy we won.
I'm happy you won. I was worried that it would never end, and I was also worried that will you win this game actually, because you talked about the comeback potential from Origen, but did you think they could actually reverse and take the game in the end?
It's not something I think about in game. I think about how we're going to win the game. I felt like we always had control, besides when it became the fiesta where Ashe died. Wait, what was the question again?
I was asking if you thought that Origen would be able to come back during the game when you...
I mean, honestly, I felt like all had control. They didn't have any towers really. We were kind of in their base and we had full control. So I was never really that worried. The question for me was more how long it was going to take, honestly. Yeah.
All right. Well, I remember Rogue at the beginning of the split saying that, hey, we got an easy schedule. We now want to face the top teams. Now you took down Origen. You took down Fnatic. 2 teams that you didn't beat in Spring Split. So tell me, what is the new challenge for Rogue now?
Now it's just to keep it up and keep winning against the top teams and lower tier teams. It's just keep it up and keep winning, because we're only almost halfway of the split, so we haven't even played half of the games. So we just need to keep winning and keep up the discipline and the work ethic we have. And yeah, just keep winning, that's all.
Keep winning, and it's been a good start for you guys so far. And you talk about the mid-split. I know that we're going to have a discussion around the mid-split MVP later this weekend. So who should be the mid-split MVP for you in the LEC, if you had to pick one player?
Inspired, because he's the best jungler in the world, who gives me all his camps. He lets me take every camp and every blue buff. So for me, he's the MVP in my heart.
Look at you, being nice to have more blue buffs. Thank you very much, Larssen, for the interview, and congrats on taking down Origen today. And we're going to take a short break, and coming back, we'll see this new G2 version with Pinoy on the bot lane against Misfits. Stay tuned.